And I know that you were inspired by Stephanie Meyer. Is that right?
I was, but not in like a nice way.
I'm glad I brought it up.
I was inspired by Stephanie Meyer. So my kids were little, like Twilight had come out, the movies were starting to come out, like, you know, it was a phenomenon. All the moms at my kids' future school were all like raving about it. And she was on Ellen and she was doing this interview and she was saying, you know, like how Twilight started was because she had this dream about this boy and this girl in this valley and they kissed and she wanted to see what happened and how it worked out. And she's like, I never really wanted to write a book, you know, but I wanted to see how the story ended. And I'm folding towels like you do when you have 2 under 2 and you're watching Ellen, and I'm folding towels and I realized that I'm like ripping them apart. And I'm like, I have always wanted to write a book, and she's got 3 kids, and I've only got 2 kids. So she didn't want to write a book, and she wrote a book. I could write a book, and that was where it all came from. So it was really anger that she was so nonchalant. Like, yeah, I never wanted to write a book, and look at all my bestsellers. And I was just like, whatever, Stephanie. I really do like people. It's just not coming off that way today.
No, we're gonna get to that. Esteemed audience should know that you are an extreme supporter of the writing community, whether it's the Midwest Writers Workshop that you're working with, whether it's RosieCon. What all are you doing? What events are you supporting?
Well, Midwest has kind of gone virtual, so I haven't been as active with that. But Midwest Writers Workshop is definitely where I learned my skills to become a published author. I was like so many people who walk into your first writing conference and you're like, I've got the book that's going to blow all the agents away. I'm so good. I'm so great. That's actually where I met you. The very first time we were sitting next together in Marcus Sakey's breakout or intensive. And that's where I first met Middle Grade Ninja. But I thought that I knew everything, and that one weekend made me realize that I knew nothing and I needed to work really hard to learn a lot. So I became really active with Midwest Writers, attended, I think, 10 years that I went, and I presented at a couple. They actually at one point asked me to join their board of directors, but I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to contribute, because I was still trying to figure out my way in publishing too, but it was a really great honor and it meant a lot. And then I'm also involved. Indiana has a book award for high schoolers called the Elliott Rosewater Book Award. And I've been fortunate enough to be on that committee for the last 3 years. So reading lots and lots of YA books and putting those books out there for high school students to read and vote on. Before that, I was with Young Hoosiers, which is our middle school or middle grade book award for Indiana. And then my book award, pride and joy, my bucket list experience is I got to sit on the William C. Morris Award for YA debut novels. So that was the best experience that I've had on a book award committee. That's the librarian in me trying to, stay in the game.
Well, that obviously, I'm assuming that. Well, what opportunities does that provide you with, and also how much of a commitment of your time are we talking? I know that you've always got an impossibly long list of books to read.
It is a pretty long commitment. The Morris Award was the hardest. My debut was coming out, my debut had just come out, so it was the year after my book debuted. And I think that committee, we've read like cover to cover, probably about 150 to 200 books. And then I read the first 3 chapters of probably 80 to 100 books. And then we discussed all of the ones we finished. So that was a huge time commitment. But I loved it because, first of all, it was debut books, and I love to support debut authors. I always have. I always watch ALA's book awards when they're, done online, and I always rush out to get those Morris Book Award nominees, just because I think there's something special about writing your first book. And you have the freedom to do whatever you want, and you have the time to do whatever you want in your story, and there isn't word count restrictions. You just are writing for the pure love of writing and that hope that somebody's going to see your work. They're not always the best written books ever, but there is something about those debut books is just, I get it. Like, I just love them so much. And so being on that committee was awesome. The other book committees, it's been great because when I go into libraries or go into schools, I can talk books with these kids that have read, they're reading what I'm reading. And that makes it a lot easier to connect with them and get them to relax around you when you're doing school visits.
And of course, I'm assuming that provides you all sorts of networking opportunities.
It does, with especially with the Indiana ones. Everybody on the committee, with the exception of maybe me, is a librarian. And I did do the librarian thing for a little while, but decided to take a little bit more time to focus on writing. So yeah, it does definitely give me some connections to meet with librarians. And so when I go to different conferences and stuff, there are friendly faces in the audience, and that's always fabulous.
I assume it's also easier to approach people when you want to get signings set up, when you want to be part of events. Oh, we know Sarah because she was with us for this and this and that.
Yeah, sometimes. And it's like sometimes I'll get school visits from people that I've worked with in the past, which is always great to get to see their students. But honestly, it was that joy of reading that made me want to do the book awards. Just being able to, well, there are free books. Okay, that's the biggest perk that you get with being on this book award committee, as is evident by the walls of books. So that definitely doesn't hurt. But a lot of the books that don't go on to make the list, I go ahead and donate to our local high school or to our local junior high because they don't have all the room in the world. But yeah, there is some, but there's something about, and this is the same with writers, there's something about being in a room full of people who love books and who want to talk about books. And I don't always have that in my day-to-day life. So when I get that chance to be involved with groups that feel that way, then I'm absolutely 100% going to take that opportunity.